Hello, I'm Susan Feller, curator for Stories Are Made Loop by Loop, and today's interview is with Mary Tayleigh Lopez de Morales. Um, we're going to learn more about her process, and I would like to explain why her work is in the exhibit. First of all, we're lucky enough to have her work represented by unitingus.org, which is a Washington, D.C. organization supporting veterans through art and community projects, family community projects. Mayor Tayleigh lives in BC, and she is a veteran. Her work is here because of that association. So a lot of her work is talking about her veterans experience, and she came to rug hooking and fiber arts through the art therapy program in the VA. Today, I'd like to share some slides as Mary talks more about her process and her inspiration. So Mary, why don't you talk a little about the different techniques that you work on and how you build a design?
Okay. As you know, a great majority of my work is a quiet feminism and being a military veteran. So I had a late uncle or great uncle that died a few days before the end of World War I. And no one in my family was able to visit his grave. And it really affects me. So I try not to cry about it. But then I realized there were a lot of women that didn't get to see their sons come home. And I never learned about this in American history. But in 1914 and 15, and early on in 1916, quietly, the United States allowed their sons to go into Canada and Newfoundland and Nova Scotia and join the British in World War I. So if they went to Newfoundland, they were shipped off to Suvla Bay. If they went into Alberta or BC or Ontario, they were shipped off to France. And I never learned this through our history, and we never talk about the sons we lost and their great sacrifice for freedom worldwide. So originally I was having my great uncle being remembered, and then I remembered, well, wait a minute, there were other sons. And then here's the elephant in the room, PTSD. I hide words in my work. It's my way of subliminal messaging, my experimented with it. And no man's land, there's two definitions. One is where we're buried, either as a veteran or a soldier, our last place of rest. The other one is the disassociation from reality. And this is very common with soldiers and veterans that have experienced post-traumatic stress or chronic PTSD. And so I wanted to bring this to light as well. This was the first war that we studied, soldier syndrome or shell shock, also known as PTSD. So we learned a lot. We've come a long ways in how to treat it. Now, remembering the boys, there is a music artist by the name of Eric Vogel. He's Scottish. He wrote a song called The Green Fields of France. And I took artistic liberty and changed the chorus a little bit for this piece. Did they beat the drum slowly, play the fife lowly, or sound the death march? Did the bugler play taps or last post and chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest? So when you're buried into the ground to your final resting place, one of those songs are going to be played, and it tells who you fought for. Last post and chorus is for the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. Taps is American. Last post and chorus is from a Scottish regiment. So that is what had inspired me there. Now you're going to see these little circular concentric rings off to the your left. That war was supposed to end all wars, but it kept happening over and over and over. We had police actions, we've had wars, we've had missions. So it never stopped. So when you look at the finished piece, I think the next slide it is. When you look at this finished piece, you're going to see all these concentric rings all there on that left side. Let's take a look. You see there's 4 crosses, right? Only one of them is complete because that's a no man's land. So if you focus on one thing, you're not going to get the complete of the others. Each cross is different, but each of them have enough in common to be the same. We come from all walks of life, different social economic backgrounds, different cultures, different languages, but we came together to fight an enemy that was going to subjugate the free world. And this was how we're all the same, but yet we're all different. We come from different ways of life. And so that's how I represented it in the making of the crosses. And the poppy, as you know, is the veterans. The green fields of France have the poppies flowing. And that one bud coming up, those are the newbies coming up in the ranks. They're gaining the experience that we have. So that was my way of honoring the PTSD, the no man's land, and the sacrifice for freedom from the First World War, and the missing boys. This is Uniting Us, doing an art exhibition of different kinds of artists and their different mediums. And this was a picture taken of me demonstrating how I hook my rugs. So I use a quilting hoop and bungee cords to try to keep it taut. And the piece here that I've made, it's called Angel Flight. And I'm going to try not to cry because it does touch me. The last salute that a fallen soldier is given when they're repatriated is the angel wings. And when you look at the actual piece, you're going to see yellow, which are the heat-seeking flares that are fired off by the C-130. And the wind, the fuselage and the wings causes this billowing effect. So it looks like an angel is in the sky. This means that I am giving you the final salute for your sacrifice in your mission. And I hidden the words, thank you. And if you look at the lower right area, there is a thistle. There was some of our fallen had a trauma associated with the symbolic gesture of the thistle. And my father was the inspiration behind this piece, and Anne Marie as well. Anne Marie Halterman, the director of unitingus.org, is a retired major from the United States Air Force during the Second Gulf War. My father was Vietnam. My father brought many of these boys home and repatriated them. And as soon as he got the permission from the tower, the air traffic control tower, Bravo 1, you have permission to have the Angel flight make its final salute. And that's when you would see these heat-seeking flares going off and the billowing effect. And this is the Air Force giving the final salute to these fallen soldiers that came home. Sailors, soldiers, airmen, whatever they were. And so if you ever see a plane, and I'm going to ask this of anybody in the audience, if they ever see a plane and they see the angel wings, put your hand over your heart and say a prayer for the families that sacrificed their child for your freedom. It is so important to remember this salute. And I'm thankful to Uniting Us for letting me make this piece and showing it off to many members of the Department of Defense and Veterans Affairs as well. Oh, this is the poem that started it all, Susan. This Valley of This was written in a very dark time of my life. I had gone through the third denial of my disability with Veterans Affairs. And Service Canada got me a lawyer and we won that case because then it became an international scene. But this Valley of Thistles deals with a journey of being heard, being acknowledged, being vindicated from a very serious trauma that we are still growing and learning how to handle in the military. The trauma I'm talking about is military sexual trauma, and it's when active duty members harm other individuals by not respecting them, by physically harming them, and the victims not being heard. So we've come a long way since Tailhook. We've come a long way since the scandal at the Air Force Academy, but we still have a long ways to go. So I'm going to explain some aspects of the thistles. The piece to the right has 5 thistles I'm working on. There are over 200 varieties of thistles worldwide. So I only chose 5. So it doesn't matter what color you are, what ethnic background you come from, what culture you come from. Have something in common. They're thistles. They may look different, they may be bigger, they may be smaller, they may be more stockier, they may be more pricklier, but they're all thistles. And in my case, represented on this piece, these are 5 different women. They come from all different walks of life, but they have this one tragic thing in common. They suffered military sexual trauma. Here's the positive about why I chose the thistle to represent the good, the bad, and the beautiful. We suffered pain. That's the trauma. Through therapy, we develop coping skills and strength from within. We develop hope. After we develop those skills, we can survive anywhere. Have you seen a cliff and there's a crack in the cliff and there's a thistle there? They grow anywhere. They're not weeds. it's more than the national emblem of Scotland. It shows the strength and endurance that these victims will endure, and they will be productive members of society. They need to be heard, they need to be believed. And so that was the biggest reason I chose unofficially, and yes, I'm pushing for it, that the Thistle represents the military sexual trauma that so many of these victims have suffered from. But there is hope to recover. You will never let it go away. It will never be cured, but you can learn to live with the past, and you can become productive, and you can help others recognize how to protect themselves. So that was the reason I chose We Are. And there's another poem I have by the same name, We Are. We come from different walks of life. We're women, we're soldiers, we're wives, we're mothers, we're sisters, we're daughters. But we've all suffered a great tragedy. But I'm not going to let a government official take away my hope. It took 4 times and 32 years to get my disability and to be acknowledged. This did happen to me. So I'm hoping it will bring hope to other people. And that's the bumblebee up there. That bumblebee spreads hope. It's part of the strength building. So that's what inspired me with my military experiences with these pieces.
I think each of those visuals are now even more powerful hearing your stories. And
Yes.
I know you've asked me as I talk with actual people seeing the work in exhibits, what are their reactions? Just looking at your Thistle piece and reading your artist statement, that's enough for people to pull out their own experiences and to also honor you by the fact that you are speaking out, as many of the others are in their work and on their topics. Could you explain a little more about the experience working with Uniting Us?
Oh my gosh. It is the first time that somebody wanted my stuff to be shown. Again, that dark place that I was in, when you reviewed the pictures I gave you, you saw that the No Man's Land had a first place ribbon on it, that one picture of it. I could never show my stuff locally where I live because there's some backbiting going on. There's some talented people here in my area, but there are some individuals on like an art gallery's board of directors that won't give me the time of day, or they change the goalposts of the requirements for me to have my stuff shown there. So I'm like, okay, I'm giving up. And the Department of Veterans Affairs, one of the art therapists in Colorado at that VA said, hey, I'm going to refer you to Anne Marie Halterman at Uniting Us. And so she put us together through the email, and Anne Marie said, can you send me some pictures of your work? So I sent her everything like I did with you. I sent her everything, you choose to deal with it. And she said, I'm going to send you 3 applications. And it started with 3 pieces. It started with Double Speak, which is muddy water that tastes like turpentine in that canteen cup with the camouflage. No Man's Land, and Suvla Bay. And that's the one with the lone pine tree in the cemetery and the monument. And again, inspired by Eric Bogle and the Lost Sons of America from World War I. So that was my way of honoring these sons we lost. She took those and she showed them. There was a former US Naval Hospital in the area, which is now an art gallery. And it's like everybody took to them like a duck on a June bug. They took to them so quickly, and I was so shocked. Here I thought I was not that great of a person in my artwork, but people related to it, they
Mhm.
took to it, they loved it. And then COVID hit.
Mhm.
And that's where I ran into your work and what you were doing with Appalachia, so nobody would forget about the trails.
Mhm.
How that was so inspiring to my own memories of growing up with my stepfather's family. And then Merrill Cook and Karen Miller and Elizabeth. I was like, wow, these and the other artists in this small group. Here's the thing, I wasn't sure self-confident wise, am I good enough to show my stuff to you other artists? And lo and behold, each of you gave me something special, a little tidbit of advice. And I'm going like, okay, I'll try that. I'll give it a shot. Or like you kept picking my brain. Why are you doing this? Tell me more about this process. And I'm going like, oh, this is what I need to do.
Mhm.
And it was like therapy to me. And then I looked at everybody's work and I'm going, wow, literally, these women are powerful in their feminism of their work. Some people may not think they're a feminist, but their work. And as you know, I'm working on a piece with the Supreme Court and a book character in the foreground doing a one finger salute. I'm working on a piece like that, and I'm hoping it will be received well. So as I get further and further along, I'm going to show it on Instagram as I'm progressing. Right now, I'm still making the yarn for it.
Well, and I think that's important also, is that you are spinning a lot of your yarn. So the background process for you is the making of that, and it's all handwork. Which,
Yeah.
in this day and age, you and I and all the other artists, we are working very slowly. And in doing that, we're able to identify with the subject, with our own work, think things out in better way, have conversations with ourselves. So thank you for sharing this part of the story. In
Thank
this
you.
interview itself, I want people to go back and listen again and look at your work, have an opportunity to see it online through unitingus.org under their shop. Her work is available. And I'm again very happy to be able to
Yeah.
represent you in these shows here. We will have your Instagram handle by James' daughter
Yes.
at the end of this interview, and I greatly appreciate being able to share your story tonight.
Thank you. And like I told you before, 5 years ago, I would never speak out about the thistles. Rug hooking has given me strength to open up. And
That's
I thank all of you, for helping me on this journey. I could not do it alone without you guys. And I mean all of you collectively. Thank you.
very good way.